Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of TA with McKay. My name, of course, is McKay. Now, in today's episode, we're going to take a step aside from our current videos we've been putting out, which are price projection videos. Of course, if you're new to my channel, you're clicking on a video for the first time and you're seeing my face. I do typically put out, or have been typically putting out, price projection videos for the top 100 coins, or at least coins that I project to end up inside or close to inside the top 100. Now, I would highly recommend, seeing the link in the description or clicking at the end of the video. There'll also be a video that pops up on your screen that is for that playlist. I think they're very good videos, very realistic price projections, completely based on a formula that I came up with that I'm pretty proud of. I think they're definitely worth a watch. But enough about that. In today's video, we're actually going to be talking about 5 of my top 10 coins that I'm looking to buy right now. So we're going to put out a 2-part video. This is going to be 5 of the top 10. We're going to discuss coins anywhere from a few large caps, a few middle caps, and even maybe a smaller cap in both videos. But these are just 10 coins that I think have multiple reasons behind why they're a good investment right now to hold for the duration of the bull run. I don't believe Bitcoin's going to find its top until sometime in the latter half of 2025. So these are coins I'm looking at now to buy and hold until later in the bull run. That being said, there are several things we'll be looking at for each coin, or at least a couple things I should say. Number one, of course, being its chart, the technical analysis side of it. Number two, being a little bit of the fundamentals, mostly the narrative. Are they coins that fit the narratives for this bull run, whether that's AI or the gaming sector or something along those lines? Now, unlike a lot of the YouTubers, not all, but a lot, I'm not going to just be saying, hey, look at this coin, buy it now. I'm actually going to be pulling up the chart, showing you levels I'm looking at where I would purchase possibly half of whatever I plan to allocate to it at this level, for example, and then show you another level. We're going to show you how I'm going to set alerts on those exact spots so that we can enter potentially at the levels that we want for this coin. We're not just going to blindly hit buy. We're going to have reasons behind where we're buying, why we're buying, and of course, how we're buying. What exchanges are these coins on if they're a little on the smaller side and not one of the larger caps like Ethereum or something, right? So I want you guys to understand that there's going to be a lot of information jam-packed in this video. It might be a little bit on the longer side. There will be timestamps, of course, in the description, so you can skip ahead if there's only 1 or 2 of the coins I'm going to talk about in today's video that interest you. But keep in mind that I believe all 5 coins have mega potential, and I think the entire video is worth a watch if you have time. With all that out of the way, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps the channel to grow, so of course I can get these videos pushed out to a bigger audience. And with all of that being said, here is 5 of my top 10 coins that I'm looking to buy right now. Okie dokie. So to start out, we're over here on CoinGecko.com. This is just kind of my go-to site to look up, the top 100 coins or information about individual coins. You can also use CoinMarketCap.com as another popular one. I believe between these two, they're probably the most popular. There's a handful of other sites you can use. This is just my preferred website for that information. And we won't have to scroll down very far to see the first coin that I'm going to talk about, as it actually falls at number 5 currently on the list of top 100 coins. Only coins above it are BNB, of course, Tether, which is just the coin that people use to basically buy their crypto coins on different exchanges, Ethereum, and of course the big daddy Bitcoin. So the coin that we're going to be talking about as number 1 out of 5 is actually Solana. So of course Solana will be the largest cap coin that I'll be talking about, and I almost excluded it because I know it's not that exciting to click on a video and hear about a coin that might fall into the obvious category. However, I do think some people might be overlooking how high Solana could actually go. Either they're maybe projecting it too high, which is most Hopium YouTube channels, or the vice versa. They're thinking, oh, it's number 5 already, so maybe most of its potential gains have already been had. I don't look at it that way for a couple of reasons, those of which we'll discuss in today's video. But one of the main things we're going to look at is BNB, from where it began last bull run to where it ended. I think that Solana could be this cycle's BNB. A lot of people think it could eventually overtake something like Ethereum. Whether that's going to happen or not, I'm not here to talk about that in today's video. I definitely don't think it's going to happen this cycle, even if it ever does. However, I do think it could have gains like BNB had last bull run, which from where we're at now still has a lot to go. So the fundamental side of Solana, I'm not going to spend very much time on. I think a lot of people know already what Solana is, but maybe if you're brand new to crypto and you just want the brief explanation, that's all I'm here to give you. So we're here on Google, we're on Investopedia.com. These are the key takeaways of what Solana is. So I'm just going to quickly read these to you, Solana is a blockchain platform designed to host decentralized scalable applications. It can process many more transactions per second and charges lower transaction fees, that's the big one, than Ethereum. Everybody knows what Ethereum is for the most part, that's been in crypto for even more than maybe 3 or 4 months. A lot of us that have been in it for over a year have at least used Ethereum at some point to buy coins on Uniswap, things of that nature. Solana has lower transaction fees, which by itself has made it really popular. And then it says Solana is a proof of stake, which is POS, blockchain, but improves on it with a mechanism called proof of history, POH, which uses hashed timestamps to verify when transactions occur. Blah, 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 lower transaction fees. Seems pretty obvious why that would make it popular, but the biggest reason I'm betting on Solana to continue to grow and maybe exceed what a lot of people think it can do this bull run is the fact that people are using it to buy a lot of these meme coins. Now, unless you're brand new to crypto, meme coins have been kind of the big talk of this entire bull run so far, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. It seems to be what excites retail as they come into the space and so on. So here on CoinGecko, for example, we have the top Solana coins by market cap pulled up, and you can see some of these big coins like number 53, dogwithhat. I made a video about that, by the way, with the price projection. You've got Bonk, you've got Book of Meme, Popcat, Cat and Dogs World, Ponky. You just got all these different meme coins, which a lot of people think are pretty cool to buy and trade for whatever reason. So then if we hop over here to the BNB chart and just kind of take a look at what it did last bull run, BNB of course being currently number 4, but it's the coin I referenced earlier that I think Solana could do something similar. We can see back here in the bear market that it was trading as low as a little bit lower even, but kind of hovered a lot around like the $5 to $10 range. So we'll just say $5. It peaked actually right here during the week of May 2021 at almost $700. So if you pull up a calculator real quick and actually just type in 700 divided by 5, that gives us the answer of 140. So basically BNB did around 140x last bull run. Then if you pull up Bitcoin's chart, we can kind of see that it hovered around $3,000 or very close to for the bottom of its bear market. And of course we know it topped at around 69 or 70k. So we'll type in 69,000. We're going to divide that of course by 3,000, and Bitcoin did roughly a 23x last bull run. So from there I can say, okay, what's 140x divided by 23x, and we can see that BNB last bull run roughly did a 6x in comparison to Bitcoin as far as from their bottoms to their top prices. Now, the only reason why I thought that was important to do first is I don't project Bitcoin to do another 23x this time. Its low was, of course, roughly around 15,000, a little above that during the bear market. I don't expect Bitcoin to hit prices of 15,000 times 23, which would be like 345,000 this bull run. There are people that do project that high. I just don't see that realistic for at least this bull run, maybe 10 years from now, possibly so, but I digress. Now, the main reason that I mentioned that is that now if we pull up Solana's chart and we look at where it was at the bottom of this bear market, which we'll just say roughly is $10. I think it dipped a little bit below that at one point, closer to 8, but just for a nice even number, we'll do $10. Of course, if we were to project that it could do, a 6x of what Bitcoin does, we first have to project Bitcoin prices. But let's just say Bitcoin does $150,000, right? Well, $150,000, this should be pretty easy math, but just so you can see how I'm doing this, we're going to divide that by 15,000. And of course, that's going to give us a 10x. So if we think Bitcoin could potentially do a 10x, then that means we would project that Solana could do about a 60x, because that's 6 times 10, right? 60x. Now, of course, if these parts of the videos do bore you, I do apologize. I just want you to understand my thought process so that hopefully you can use it to make an informed decision or understand why I'm bullish on this coin. Now, again, if we believe that Solana hovered around $10 and we want to say that it could do a 60x, well, of course, what's that going to be? 60 times 10 is $600. So from where we're at right now even, which is the number 5 coin, we're sitting at $140. So 600 divided by, of course, $140. That's projecting that even from this point, if you were to buy Solana today, that you could still get a 4x return potentially on your investment if Bitcoin hits 150k or around there. And to me, on a coin that's already number 5, that's pretty awesome. That's still pretty darn good gain. It isn't a 10x, it isn't a 20x, but for a coin of this size that I think's about one of the safest bets there is, a 4x is pretty darn good. And of course, all that stuff I just mentioned, in my opinion, is bullish, and that was even without looking at its chart, which is what this entire channel is based around, which is TA with MK, so technical analysis. So we are now going to quickly look at its chart and explain what I'm seeing at this that makes me believe it's a good time to buy now. Now we can see obviously from the time that it topped last bull run and then it came down and accumulated here in the bear market, and then of course started rallying again, that we broke above this key area of resistance that was resistance in the bear market after its first rally, which was basically topped at about $130. You of course had this pullback, wanted, pump back up, found resistance there before eventually finding its bear market bottom. And lo and behold, when it came back up on the underside of the zone, which again is a zone about $120 to $130, it found resistance, got rejected temporarily, came down to this green zone here, which is also where it had found support initially after it topped last bull run, and then pushed onward and upward, right? So anyway, if we clear all that out of the way, we can see that as of right now, this zone of support at the moment, as long as we're above it, it is support, which is basically between about $115 and $135. It is a pretty big range. However, you can see it's had wicks down here on multiple occasions inside the zone that got bought up. Most recently on this current pullback, we're seeing that again, right around $120 is getting bought up. Does that mean it will hold, for the duration if Bitcoin pulls back further? Probably not. If Bitcoin does lose 60K, on a weekly candle and eventually goes back to something like 50K, of course, Solana is going to break down further. But in my opinion, especially if you have a little bit of a longer term outlook, I believe this area is a great area to deploy some capital, not financial advice, of course, but if you have so much money you'd like to invest in Solana, I would suggest, investing something like half of that in at these prices. And then if for some reason it does lose this support, then we have this next awesome zone, even better buy, right? Down here between about $80 and we'll just call it $90, somewhere down in that range. And that would be the area that I would eye, to potentially deploy the other half of whatever capital you were going to deploy should the coin, go to those prices. And again, nothing in this video is financial advice, but just so you can see that I put my money where my mouth actually is. Over here on Bluefin, which is an exchange I just started using as the former exchange I was using, Mexi, is no longer allowing US residents. We can come down here in my order history and see that I bought some Solana on 6/27, which was just yesterday at the time of making this video, at the price of $139.30. So if we hop back over here to my chart, I've added a purple line there just to show that that is my buy price. Now, granted, it was a little bit above the zone that I actually set. I had an alert go off by the time I actually got around to looking at it. I didn't have a buy order set up. I would recommend, if you really want to get your orders filled, have a buy order already set. However, I did not on this one. I just had an alert set that of course went off when it went down in this green zone. Time I looked at it, I didn't get the price I actually wanted. However, I still think it is a good investment down at these prices for the longer term. And then of course, as we're gonna do with all 5 coins in today's video, if we haven't already made any purchases, we're gonna set alerts. Now down here at around $100, which of course is above that lower zone of $80 to $90, I'm gonna go ahead and put a horizontal line. I just wanna be aware if price action is beginning to trend down towards that area, because in my opinion, honestly, even $100 would be a great price. We may not actually see if it dips down, it hit the 80 or 90 buck range. If it does, great, but I'm gonna go ahead and set an alert on this horizontal line by right clicking, and then I'm gonna click where it says add alert at the top. I'm only going to let it do it one time just so I can get a text or an email or both to tell me that the price is at $100. We're going to put Solana to $100 as the alert. I'm going to hit create, and now that's sitting there waiting for me. And then lastly, real quick, before we move on to coin number 2, I just want to display on the screen the prices that I'm talking about that I think are good value for this coin for the bull run. We were just in it last night for the other one, which would be anywhere between like 115 in my opinion and like 135. Obviously, the closer to 115, the better. I would set alerts in that area if you haven't already. Look to maybe deploy some capital at that price range. And then of course, the even better one, should Solana continue to break down further, would be anywhere between about $75 and $90. Again, the lower number, of course, being better, but you're not always going to get the price you'd like. I think long term, if you get an average buy-in price of something like $120 for Solana, I think you'd be patting yourself on the back, most likely come the end of next year. And now, of course, moving on to coin number 2 of the top 5, we're going to be talking about a coin a little bit further down the list. Obviously, Solana, which we just talked about, was number 5. We've got to scroll all the way down to number 27 to find my coin number 2, and that would be KASPA, which is the ticker KAS. Now, just like Solana, I'm not going to spend a significant portion of time talking about the fundamentals of KASPA. However, from what I can understand, they are pretty good. But rather than pick and choose through different websites explaining kind of what it is, I actually found a Reddit post where one person posted something here that basically goes over all the positives of KASPA. So it's all kind of in one place here. I'm just going to kind of go through this quickly with you and point out some of the things he mentions. First, he says, what does Bitcoin have that other altcoins don't? It was fairly launched launched, no ICO, no pre-mine, proof of work consensus algorithm, fully decentralized network. That's what everybody likes about Bitcoin, right? No foundation behind it, no CEO, nothing. We scroll down a little ways, we'll read through this quick. So he says, like I described how BTC works, KASPA works all the same, but better. Bitcoin has one problem, it cannot scale. The Lightning Network exists, but works okay, but I always knew it would be hard to get mass adoption. It has several problems, blah, blah, blah. He just says KASPA solves this perfectly. He goes on to explain how it solves it. It has this thing called block DAG that instead of a slow blockchain, which is able to scale like nothing else ever before, everyone thought proof of work in general must be slow, and there won't ever be a way to make it faster. Litecoin reduced the block time, but there was a no-win in general because of the security issues. Bitcoin Cash had increased the block size, but then it killed decentralization. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, I think this is actually the most interesting part of his post. He says, KASPA is better than Bitcoin and it's made for adoption. It's proof of work, fair launched, community-driven, decentralized, and highly scalable. It doesn't compete with 99% of the altcoins because they are centralized proof of stake, for the most part, with ICOs, pre-mines, foundations, blah, 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 right? It's saying KASPA doesn't have any of that. To mention, ETH had a 70% pre-mine. Again, he emphasizes 70%. He also down here towards the bottom mentions that by 2025, that over 95% of the supply will be already mined, and basically that it can do transactions within 2 to 10 seconds, even across borders. So he's just got a whole article here. I'll leave a link in the description so you can read this all the way through yourself if you'd like, but he's just going over all the bullish things about KASPA. I think he summarizes it very well. My biggest thing I love about it is when he brought up that it's community driven and all of that. There isn't a CEO and any of those ICOs or people that invested early that are going to dump on you, like is the case with most tokens, or as he put it, 99% of them. Now, KASPA, unlike Solana, is a little bit trickier coin to do long-term TA on just because it's not been around for that long. In fact, here on MEXC, one of the exchanges that you can buy it on, its price history only dates back until the 10th of May, or well, the beginning of May, sorry, of 2023. And of course, it was sideways for a while with some pumps up, kind of hung out in this little range between like 3 cents and 5 cents, and eventually broke above that, put in some new highs. Now we've basically been in this range for all of 2024 that more or less is from the bottom side of it, 10 cents, the top side of it's been about 20 cents. So I realize that's a giant range, but as I give you my levels that I'd be looking to buy, just understand that when I give my price predictions for it, if it were to remain at position number 27 and Bitcoin were to hit 150K, for example, that price projection is clear up here at like 71 cents, which would mean in the grand scheme of things, anywhere you bought between 10 and 20 cents would look or make you look like a genius if obviously the KASPA goes to that price. Also, if we hop over here to my YouTube page and just take a quick glance, we can scroll down here through all these price projection videos I've been putting out, and we can see that back here, which 3 months ago, that KASP was actually the very first coin I did a price projection video on. You can see here I made my formula video kind of explaining how that worked. I also projected Bitcoin prices, and then I came out with KASPA or KAS, and since then I've actually become more bullish on the coin. In that video, I believe I projected it to hit around 45 cents, which of course would be anywhere from like a 4x if you could get it at 10 cents to a 2.5x if you buy it up at the 20 cent range we talked about. But again, I'm actually going to put out an updated video on KAS here in the near future, which I'll do with some of these other coins that I first price projected before I kind of enhanced my formula a little bit and got a little bit more dialed in with it. But again, just that's a quick peek at my page and all these different videos that I've made price projections on. But I just wanted to give you some context behind why when I go over these different buy levels, that if at the end of the day you think this coin is worth it, you know, not financial advice, but to hold during the duration of the bull run, it could still fall under the buy right now category, even if you're technically buying it at potential resistance. Now again, if you're making short-term trades, I never recommend buying something at resistance. What do I mean by resistance? Well, clearly this area up here, it's been rejected on 1, 2, 3, and it looks like it wants to get rejected for a 4th time. So if you don't have a longer term outlook on this coin, this could potentially be a very wrong time to buy the coin. But if you have a little bit of a longer term outlook on it, then you might look at this as still a good area to buy, especially if we project this coin to reach as high as 70 cents or above. That being said, if you are looking to get a better entry on it, I've added some zones here now, just like I did with Solana. We can set some alerts. Now granted, if it was me, I'd break this down in 3 potential buys depending on what Bitcoin does over the next month or month and a half or so. Now granted, because we're getting rejected here, the first obvious area to put a buy order down in would be around 15 to 16 cents, something in that range. Probably set an alert down here at around 16 cents, and if it retraces a little lower than that, that would be one area I would look to purchase. That would be kind of the top of this lower three areas of support. You have a middle area of support, which sits around 12 to 12.5 cents. That'd be another area I would look to buy. And then on a really big retracement, clear back to kind of this bottom support zone, which is where it found support back here in the early part of the year, and then most recently in April. That would fall right around the 10 to 11 cent range, and I think that would represent another great buying opportunity for the long term. But then I also want to quickly mention before we move on to coin number 3, let's just say you plan on buying 3 orders worth of this, or you would like to, but you're just not so sure it's going to retrace as low as you'd like, but you want some exposure to the coin. If you were to buy now, understanding that there's a good chance that you will see lower prices, you could do that. You could purchase some now. Again, not financial advice. You could have a buy order or 2 smaller ones set up down here at these supports should you get them. But another way to play it if you bought now would also be to add to your entry on a second buy if we break above 20 cents or at least 19.5 cents and are able to confirm that with some sort of a daily candle close above there, basically meaning we put in a new high as well as close a candle body, which is not the wick part, but the body above that price. You could add there. And then if for some reason you do get a retrace after that, which would just continue this whole high, low, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, you could put your third buy order back in down here at the support level at that point if we were to retrace. The important thing to understand is there's so many different ways to enter these coins. Unlike Solana, we're not sitting any major support because the coin doesn't have enough history. But as long as you believe in KAS, it's a coin that you think will be here for the duration of the bull run. Again, I just want to emphasize that I think anything between 10 and 20 cents honestly could be a good long-term buy for where I think the price could eventually go by the end of the bull run, which you can see if Bitcoin hit 150K, that even if it just stays at position number 27 where it's at now, that would be something like from where the price is now up to there, like a 300% gain, or in other words, like a 4x, which is still pretty safe in my opinion. Okie doke, folks, we're gonna move on to coin number 3. Now, of course, we've talked about Solana, which was my number 1 of 5. We talked about KASPA, which was number 2. And number 3 here on CoinGecko, we're gonna have to scroll down not too far from where we're at now to position number 35. Now, I spoke earlier at the beginning, or at least at the beginning of the video, about how narrative would play a role in some of these picks, of course. And of course, with Solana and KASPA, they didn't necessarily fit what I referred to at the beginning of the video, AI, gaming, things of that nature. However, this next coin we'll be talking about at number 35, which is rendertoken, RNDR, fits one of those narratives perfectly, and that would be the artificial intelligence or AI narrative. So what is rendertoken exactly? Well, Google always says it better than I can. It says Render is the utility token of the Render network, a provider of decentralized GPU-based rendering solutions. Render is an ERC20 token, which serves as the utility token used to pay for animation, motion graphics, and VFX rendering on the Render network. And actually, if you scroll down here a little bit further, it says, what does Render do in crypto? It says, Render unlocks the full productive potential of decentralized GPU computing to power next-generation 3D content creation and, the keyword, keywords, artificial intelligence. Now, do I personally know exactly what that means? No. Do I really care? No. This just fits the narrative or narratives for this particular bull run, in this case, the AI narrative, and it's one of the coins that's seen some of the bigger gains because of that. It has a lot of the attention on it, and as we always say here on the channel, where the attention goes, the money flows. Now, again, that's not always the case if the market's going down, which it has been, but we're projecting that when the market goes back up, that this coin will resume to pick up hype as it once had. So if we hop over here on the chart for Render, we're going to see some things similar to Solana that we didn't see on KASPA. And what I mean by that is that it's retracing back to some of these great zones that I would say are good buying opportunities. Now, just like Solana and just like KASPA, I actually have price projection videos already put out on my price projection playlist for these coins. You'll see if I zoom out here further that I have these different price projections, anywhere from $30 all the way up to $70 based on different potential position rankings, Bitcoin's price at the time. I also have my own personal projection that I had at the time of making that video, which was that Render would end up at position number 25 at a little over $35 at about $35.50. If you haven't already, I would definitely recommend watching those videos. It'll explain my formula and my thinking behind where I come up with these price projections. But even my personal projection, which was on the safer side, would be like a 5x from where we're at now, which I think would still be a pretty awesome gain for a coin that's inside of the top 50. But again, we're going to go ahead and just look more in the short term. Where would we buy it at? for these potential long-term gains. And zooming in here on the chart, we can see I've got a couple zones of support set up here, one of which we just recently tapped, which would have been yesterday on the pullback for Bitcoin. And that's the zone that falls between just under 650, we're gonna say about 630, on up to about $7. To me, anywhere in that range would be a good area to pick up some render token. And then if we get an even further retrace down somewhere between like $4.50 and maybe like $5.20, I realize that's a pretty big zone, but again, when you're investing, not short-term trading, obviously if you're trading with 5, 10, 15, 20x leverage, you can't have buy zones that are this big or sell zones that are this big, because you're either going to get stomped out or liquidated, or you're going to miss taking profits because you're worried about the top end of a giant zone. This is a long-term investment, strategy that I'm, deploying in this video or explaining to you. So in that case, I think it's very common to look at zones that are, 10, 20% big. In this case, we got about a 13% wide zone there that I'm referring to buy at. The one that it just tapped is a zone that's like 10%. And to me, that's a pretty common area or width of an area to have as buying, or later in the bull run, selling areas. Also, in addition to that, if we're looking for a little more confluence, we can go over here with this little eyeball here tool, and we can actually say we want to hide all of my drawings. And then we're going to come up here to this fib retracement tool, which I did not use on the other two coins, but I wanted to show it to you on this particular coin. And we can drag it from the bottom here of the bear market, which was around like 25 cents, right, on up to this recent top. I guess my drawings came back, but that's not a big deal. We can work around those. What I wanted to point out was that this area that it's bouncing at right now is right around the 0.5 fib level. Now, granted, it's dipped below that a little ways. That's fine. Again, it's a zone of support, not just one exact price. But that's a common area to see a bounce at. So could we see a little more sustained bounce? Possibly. This is the second and actually third time it's already visited this zone. You can see these wicks here. In fact, I'd say it's already visited it 3. This would be the 4th time basically it's visited this zone. So will this continue to hold up? We don't know, but that's still a good area in my opinion long term to buy at. But what I wanted to point out when I pulled this up is that if it does retrace further, and you're looking for that second area to buy, there is confluence with this zone down here with the golden pocket, which would be the 0.618 to 0.65, which I have here in yellow. All these are referring to as a percentage of a pullback and areas that longer term investors look at as good buying opportunities for the coin. And the 6.8 and 6.5, the golden pocket as it's called, is considered one of the best. And then of course, similar to Solana, I just bought me some render token. Now Solana I was able to buy yesterday. Render I didn't get around till buying until today. However, I still got it a little bit above the zone, just like Solana, but I'm happy with it still. I just think anything down around this range is a good buying opportunity. If you're looking at it, I would look for maybe a second pullback, again, back into that $6.50 to $7 range. My purchase order, if we hop over here to Blowfin and look at my order history, that was from earlier today, or right before I made this video actually, which was $7.34, which on the chart, I went ahead and made a horizontal line there, labeled it my first buy, $7.34. And then because I wasn't able to buy it in the actual zone or at the exact price I would have liked to have bought it, which would have been anywhere honestly below $7, I bought it at $7.34. I have an alert set now at the lower side of this zone at around $6.50. Of course, if an alert goes off, I'll add a little bit more to my position. And then if it retraces further, under the circumstance that Bitcoin retraces further to, again, like we said, something like 50K, which is still in the cards, well then of course we're going to get alerts down here probably between like $4.60 and $5. I have an alert set at the top side of that zone at about $5.20. If that goes off, that would be the third area that I would look to add to my render position. Then of course at that point I would be happy. I would just sit back and wait and see what kind of potential targets we're able to hit over the course of the next year or so. Now granted, let's just say that it doesn't retrace at this point any further, then I'd be looking to add on a break and retest candle body close above this previous wick, which was the all-time high back in the last bull run of 2021. We closed back above that. I'll add to my entry, and then my third add would actually be a brand new all-time high that's confirmed also with a candle body close. And then again, like I said, at that point we would just sit back and happily await whatever our average price is, and see if we can hit some of these projected targets that I have of like $30, $35, which is my personal projection for it, all the way up to either $50 or even as high as $70. Alrighty then, now we're gonna go ahead and move on to coin number 4 of 5. Just to summarize what we've went over so far, coin number 1 was Solana, 2 KASPA or KAS, and coin number 3 that we just finished was of course rendertoken RNDR, which is ranked number 35. Coin number 4, we're gonna scroll down a little bit further and you're gonna see that this one 100% fits the narrative for this bull run, at least to this point, which has been memes, right? This is a meme coin, one of the bigger ones, in fact, outside of course Doge, SHIB, and maybe like Pepe. We have sitting at number 53 and coin number 4 on my list, DOGWIFHAT, which is the ticker WIF. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about DOGWIFHAT or the WIF coin is how strong its fundamentals are. As you can see just by a simple Google search here, it says, despite not having any known utility, okay, wait a minute, no known utility. Oh yeah, never mind. Scratch that. One of the things I love about DOGWIFHAT is it has literally no use case at all, and yet is still performing. Isn't that why we love crypto? Let me go ahead and read a little further here. It says, WIF has established itself as one of the top performing meme coins in 2024. On its website, the creator states that it literally is just a dog with a hat. The WIF token has already outperformed prominent meme coins like Shiba and Pepe in terms of price gains. So yeah, in 2024, you can create a coin that literally has no use case and somehow still wind up number 53 on the list of all crypto coins with a market cap of over $2 billion. And while that in itself might be a big laughing joke, what's not funny for the same reasons is the fact that it's almost a top 50 coin, probably has been at some point in the recent past, despite having no use case and fundamentals, and it has over $2 billion in it. But it does fit the narrative of this bull run, which is meme coins. If you remember from earlier in the video, our first coin, Solana, it's actually a meme coin on Solana. You can actually purchase DOGWIFHAT using Solana on their blockchain, so there's that tie there that makes it bullish. Now, granted, none of the coins I'm talking about in today's video would be a coin that I personally would try to hold past this bull run. I just think crypto sees too much of a retrace on all of crypto during the bear market. But this one, more than the others to this point, I believe, where it is literally just a meme coin that's getting hyped this bull run, it would not be one that I'd allocate a big chunk of my money to, and it also would not be one that I would risk holding on to during the bear market and hoping that it comes back next bull run, because unlike Solana, which is a blockchain, unlike KASPA, which is competing with Bitcoin, unlike even the coin that we just talked about, Render, which fits the artificial intelligence and seems to have a bright future, we can't say the same thing about a coin with zero fundamentals that literally is popular because its logo is a dog with a hat. But hey, with that bit of caution out of the way, doesn't mean we still can't make a ton of money on this coin. And if we hop over to its chart, which doesn't have a lot of history, we can come up with some good buying areas as well as targets, just like my other coins, based on where Bitcoin could go. Now, again, like all the other ones to this point, I have a video on my top 100 price projection playlist for DOGWIFHAT. You can see that video, click on it, watch it. You can see here, even on this chart, which is the one I used in that video, that I have targets as high as $7.66 all the way up to $13.73, even $24.14. I believe somewhere on here I even have my personal target, which is right here actually at $22.15, which at the time of making that video was actually a 7x. I believe we've even retraced a little since then, so it might even be more like a 7.5x at this point. But anyway, my point being that before we even jump into the TA of this or where we might buy it, understand that even though it has no fundamentals, there's still a lot of money that could be made with this coin as long as you adjust your risk accordingly. Now, zooming back in, what are some of the areas we might target for buying areas? Well, if you had asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have probably told you this area at about $2.25 would have been a good area, because clearly between $2 and $2.25 we had seen support on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different occasions. Now, most recently, we've lost that support and actually flipped it as resistance. That being said, I'm sure there were plenty of people that did buy at that area, which represents the reason why it was bouncing, that are now at a loss. But in my opinion, I still think they purchased the coin at a good area long term. Now, whether that was you or not that bought, WIF at those prices, where would I be looking to add to my position? Or if you're brand new to the coin and want to get some exposure, where would I be looking to buy it? Well, I have these two different green zones set up. This one here being where it most recently bounced, which is anywhere between $1.50 and maybe like $1.70. I think that would represent a pretty good area to deploy, maybe like a third of whatever you plan to allocate to the coin. An even better buying zone, which we'll zoom out in a minute and explain why, would be here at about the 85 cents on up to $1 range. So something like 90, 95 cents would be another good area to purchase the coin. We can actually use the fib retracement tool to kind of have some confluence with at least some of the buying areas. We can see that just below the golden pocket is where we recently bounced. We were bouncing previously just below the 50% range. Now just below the 786, which is a very, very common place for larger retraces of coins. That would be that area we were just now talking about, which would be anywhere basically between 90 cents and, you know, just over $1. And lastly, one other piece of confluence with just kind of those areas down there. If we go up here and turn on the volume indicator, which is not something that I typically use to trade, but if we have newer coins and we're just trying to eye areas that we can tell have, you know, historical importance on a coin like this that doesn't have a whole lot of history, we can see that the very, very biggest volume spike to come in for this coin actually happened back on March 5th of 2024, which would be this wick that basically saw price go as high as where it is now and as low as just over $1. So clearly once it reached that dollar, there were a lot of buyers waiting to buy that coin. They bought that dip. So I would imagine that, again, it's also an even number. So psychologically, it's just an area where buyers tend to wait is at even numbers. You can imagine that if this goes back to that price, that unless Bitcoin is seeing a super, super deep retrace, which is of course possible, there should be a lot of buyers waiting at that area. So that being said, you could put a buy order in just above that to make sure it gets filled, something like $1.05 or $1.10. And then of course, kind of the final line in the sand, which unfortunately is very realistic for coins like these that are newer, that don't have a ton of price history and saw growth as quickly as this did. And that would be kind of the deepest possible retrace, not the deepest possible, but as far as a very common deep retrace on a coin like this would be all the way to the 886, basically almost retracing 90% of its gains. And that would put it anywhere between 50 and 60 cents, which I think would scare a lot of people out of the coin. You might see it hang out down there for a little while and accumulate. But in my opinion, if we saw that price again, and I'm not projecting that we do, but if we did, that would be a good area to deploy even more capital than maybe you even did at the previous 2 buys or 1 buy or wherever you decided to buy. Again, not financial advice, but if you did, because anytime we're able to get our buy or our dollar cost average lower, it just means that if we do later in the bull run see some of these price projections get hit, like $7.50 or just under $14 or even $20, it just means we stand to make even more. And then last but not least, the fifth and final coin in today's video, which is part of a different sector inside of crypto, but one that I do think has a bright future. We don't have to go far, as in today's top 5 coins, they're actually all inside of the top 100. So DOGWIFHAT was number 47. We scroll down just a little ways here to number 56. We're going to come across the coin RWEAVE, ticker AR, and of course a super quick explanation of exactly what RWEAVE is and what it does. Right here on Google, we can see at its core, RWEAVE is a decentralized storage network, or what's known as a DSN, that connects people who have extra available computer disk space with those who need more computer storage, designed to provide scalable, cost-effective, and permanent data storage. RWEAVE is built on a blockchain-like data structure called the block weave. And then just to elaborate on that just a bit more, this says, what is ARcoin used for? AR token is the cryptocurrency of the decentralized data storage platform called RWEAVE. RWEAVE is a blockchain technology that allows users to store data in a permanent and immutable way. This technology aims to reduce data storage costs and ensure data protection. In my opinion, it's a good idea to have a balanced portfolio. So obviously in this video, we have a little bit of a mixture of different types of coins. And I just want to add one other thing about RWEAVE here that I found interesting, and I think maybe you will as well. If we zoom in here, it says RWEAVE is not exactly a blockchain, instead a chain of blocks that contains transactions and data. The typical design for most cryptocurrencies, RWEAVE stores its data in a graph of blocks. This means each block is linked to 2 earlier blocks in RWEAVE, forming a structure called a block weave. This is in contrast to Bitcoin, where blocks are linked in order, forming a chain. Other cryptocurrencies that use a graph structure include Hedera, which is HBAR. I just made a video about that like a week ago. It's a coin I'm also bullish on, so I thought I'd just throw that out there. Now, as we hop over to the chart for RWEAVE or AR, this is actually on TradingView. This would be the daily chart on MEXC. I want to also mention that just like the other 4, this is also a coin that I did make a price prediction video for on my price projection playlist. And we'll go over those price projections, of course, here in a moment. But first, I just want to talk about some of these zones of importance. Now, RWEAVE, just like DOGWIFHAT, is a little bit messier chart. In fact, it's actually messier than DOGWIFHAT. a little bit harder to define exactly where the best areas to buy would be, but we're going to come up with some confluence and some areas that I think are good. I believe ARWEAVE is one of those coins that has tremendous upside, in my opinion, and so just like a lot of the other ones and all, you know, the coins that I mentioned in today's video, I do think they're all at areas, for the most part, that are probably going to be good buys for the duration of the bull run. But just in case crypto pulls back further or Bitcoin loses the 60K support, we'll talk about a couple different entry ideas for ARWEAVE. So the first and probably most obvious area that I think would be a good entry would basically be where we just bounced from within the last, several days. And that's actually this zone that ranges, and granted, it did dip below this zone both times. I'm just looking at it as kind of a value and trying to make sure that your buy order gets filled. But the range that I have on here basically ranges from like 24 to 20, we'll just call it 26.50. So 24 to 26.50 to me. Right now we're at 28 bucks. So clearly it bounced pretty hard from that area. That would kind of be the first area I would target. Now, granted, if it does roll over and dip a little bit further, then we have a zone down here between about, just under $18 on up to about $19.50. And then, of course, on an even further pullback, and we'll show some confluence here in a moment with the fib retracement tool, we have our third and final zone, which is kind of the area where after it broke out of this little falling wedge, it accumulated for a bit, and then it shot up. And I believe that zone's actually just around $11 to about $13. Next, I just want to quickly pull out the fib retracement tool like we did with the last one and just kind of show some confluence with these zones here. So we can do a couple different things. We can go from this absolute low of this particular bear market basically before it started moving up. We can pull to the high so far, and we can see that we have the 0.618, which is the golden pocket you've heard me refer to a few times in this video. That's kind of the big area where it first bounced from and had a huge rally again. Most recently, it's hanging out around the 0.5 and kind of trying to bounce off the 0.6 again. And just to be clear, that basically ranges between 20 and 21.50. Down here at the 786, which is about 13.50, that would be kind of the next big area, to look out for. Now, I also want to point out that often what I like to do with this tool as well is just take from the most recent big pump, because we basically could look at this macro at least, zoomed out as kind of more or less sideways, even though it was trending down and then up a little bit. But the big move happened right here, like in the beginning of February, right? If we take the fib retracement tool just from there to the top, then we can see if we zoom in that basically we have the golden pocket again being kind of where it's bounced both times so far. Big area to look out for, which I think would be a good area, would be about 17 bucks. That's the 786. And again, if we get the full 886 retracement, which we've mentioned in this video can be common, that's right around $12.50 to $13. And then, like a few of the other coins that I covered, I want to give you kind of an alternate entry idea or ideas, just in case maybe you're afraid to pull the trigger here. You'd rather see the coin trending, upward already before you buy in. Now, granted, that's not always the safest way to play it. Anytime you're getting large pullbacks, if you believe the bull run is, long ways from over, you're better to buy on dips versus buying on pumps. But sometimes, buying on the flip of important levels can also be a good entry play. And at least then you're playing the trend, right? Kind of a swing trade type of a thing. So I have these two zones in red of resistance that are overhead, and I'll explain why I think they could be kind of good important areas. Now, the first zone ranges between about $35.50 and about 36 bucks, we'll just call it. If you could see a break of price action over 36 and some close candles, daily closures above that, you could see that clear back here in the last bull run, that price action, obviously once it flipped it, and went higher and came back, you saw giant pumps from that level on two different occasions. Also an initial rejection from that level. So clearly that level, at least historically for this coin, has some importance. And then even higher than that, which would be above where this bull run's all-time high is, would be between 48 and 50 bucks. So we'll just call it 50. If you broke 50 and saw a retest of that and some daily candle closes above it, this area obviously has seen some action back here. This was a big rejection back here. And like I said, of course, most recently it's been rejected twice for some pretty sizable pullbacks to the tune of like basically 50%, so half of its value at that point. So you got to think if it breaks $50, if things are trending up, Bitcoin's trending up, we're kind of in that bullish part of the bull run, then of course the flip of 50 obviously could be a good play to then see, you know, ARWEAVE head onwards and upwards to potentially test some of these old highs, probably $70 first after that, and then eventually, of course, its all-time high of around $91. And then, of course, just to finish out on ARWEAVE, just in case you are kind of curious about what my formula put forth as far as projections for this coin, based on some possible rankings, here in yellow, we have position number 57, which would be an average price of just under 80 bucks at $79.50. We have position number 40, which was an average price of $124.50. And then if ARWEAVE were to push all the way to number 25, which is probably a little too bullish, I think position 40 is probably the most realistic target, at least in my opinion, that I have. But if it were to push that high, now these were all based on 115K Bitcoin. I forgot to put that on the chart, but this was based on 115K Bitcoin. Position number 25 would have ARWEAVE breaking $200, coming in at $204.80. Alrighty, super duper quick, because if I forgot to mention earlier in the video, here is a list of the 5 coins that I talked about in today's video, and below them the different exchanges that are available on. Now granted, if you're in the United States, it always gets a little trickier. You need to use a VPN, and some exchanges you just can't use at all because they require KYC, but you can look below your coin and see if they're on any of the exchanges that you currently use. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you made it this far, granted, there was a lot that I covered in this video, so, you know, I don't blame you if you fell asleep halfway through it. That being said, as a YouTuber, I just wanted to mention these 5 coins that I think are good buys right now, and I wanted to add the reasons behind it, both fundamentally, of course, and most importantly, in my opinion, at least because this is what my channel's about, would be the TA, or the technical analysis behind why I think these coins are good buys right now. And of course, on that note, if you guys are enjoying the videos that I've been putting out, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already, as it does help the channel to grow. And on your way out, if you want to watch some of those price projection videos that I talked about, my playlist should be popping up, as well as another video. You're welcome to watch those. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.